continue to think happy thoughts, no matter what your situation is. I know everybody says that, but know your happy thoughts and cling tight to them.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Welcome to the Talk About the Magic podcast, where you'll find inspiration and encouragement tied together with the magic of Disney. Now, here's your host, Joseph Ballesteros.
What is going on, Magic Cheers? Welcome to another Talk About the Magic. I'm so excited that you have decided to spend some of your time with myself and my wonderful guest today, 3mmsKat. You can find her over on Instagram. Don't worry, all of the information will be in the show notes, but I'm really excited to get into today's show. So I do want to make some quick announcements before we get into today's show. If it's your first time here, just a brief history of the show. We focus on spreading encouragement, inspiration, and we tie it all with the magic of Disney. It's about getting you to become the go-getter and the Disneypreneur that you can be. And it's not just focused on Disney in the sense of the fun Disney World, which of course we all love, but it's also the mindset of what Walt Disney had, which is that, push through attitude. I'm not going to let, trials or things that life throws my way get in my way for my goal or dream. So that is why we call it Disneypreneur and we call it a go-getter. So welcome to the show if it's your first time. But for everyone else, all you wonderful Magic Cheers, I do want to give some quick announcements. Of course, number one would be if you want to help out the show, if you like what I'm doing here, please share it. That is honestly the best way to help, because it really helps me out and it helps others find the message that we're trying to spread here and Talk About the Magic. So that really is the number one thing, and that would be to share it. Second thing, of course, show notes has all of the stuff to do all this, but I just want to kind of focus in on this announcement I'm about to make, if I could spit it out. I've done some changes and on the Patreon feed. So the Patreon, if you're not familiar, it is a place basically for the creators to kind of get more personal with the audience, whether it's listeners or musician fans or whatever it is that you're doing. And I did some changes. I've been kind of bummed out with what's everything going on, with social media, Facebook and their live stream. There's been a lot of messed up stuff happening. Even on Periscope, there's some stuff happening there, and it's just it became a situation where I'm like, okay, every platform is owned by somebody else, and you have to go by their rules. And Patreon, the good thing about Patreon is, even though obviously I don't own it, they give you that kind of ownership ability, because they're not putting ads, they're not doing anything like that. They're not allowing other people to. It's you as a person, as a creator, being able to talk to the people who want to interact with you through this site. And the reason why I'm using Patreon as well is because obviously if I do it on my personal website, it does take a lot more memory, it takes a lot more, server and all that kind of stuff that, you end up having to pay a lot more money for. So I don't have that right now. So this really is a perfect place where I'm able to upload videos, posts, I can do live streams, I can do live chats. That's something I'm really excited to do. I can talk with you guys, very personal, and you guys can have that one-on-one without having to, give me your email or, all that kind of stuff. And so to me, this was an exciting thing that I wanted to do. And so, like I said, the rewards aren't there because I'm trying this out. I'm excited. I'm not going to ask, hey, if you want this, give me $10 a month and I'll do this. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I personally just said, okay, look, I want this to be done a certain way, and I want to interact and be able to communicate with you guys much more personal and without having barriers, without having ads and all that kind of stuff or other situations pop up. So I said, how can I do that? And this is going to give me that opportunity. So this is going to be a place where I will be posting pretty much everything first there, videos, I'll, any kind of post that I do, I want to share it on here. So I'll have the link in the show notes here. And like I said, this is going to be, it's a kind of a test, but I think it's a good one. I'm excited for it. I really hope you guys will join me on there. Like I said, you can go, if you really want to be able to follow what's going on, everything, they will require you to sign up, but that's free. So you don't have to worry about that. And you just follow me just like you would on Facebook or Twitter, whatever. And, if you would rather, you could download a phone app and you could do it there. And every time I post or I'm going to do a live chat or something like that, we can talk. You could see it. And I just think it's a really, really unique way to be able to interact and get one-on-one with you guys. So I really hope you'll join me there. I'm going to be posting up some videos this week, and hopefully you guys will check it out, and I won't be alone. But without further ado, I do want to get into today's show with msKat. So here we go. Hello, Emily. Thank you so much for joining. Now, I call you Emily, but you are better known in the social media world of the Disney community, msKat. So I'm really excited to have you on the show here because your story is a much more personal one. We have a lot of guests here, and the guests are usually somehow referring to kind of a more business style, idea coming from, trying to do, their own business. And while we are going to get into that with you, your story is so much more deeper than just that. And so I'm very excited to have you on to talk a little more detail about that. Yeah, not a problem. But before
I'm excited to be here.
Awesome, thank you. Before we get into all of that, I do want to have you, if you could just let the listeners know a little more about msKat.
Okay. Well, I have been a Disney fan my entire life, and I think I didn't really become big. I don't want to say big, but I didn't really become where I was knowing people in the park and meeting up with other Instagrammers and whatnot until I started getting more and more into Periscope. And it was just some random person that I met in a line for a character meet and greet that introduced me to Periscope. She was Periscoping Gaston at the time. And I kind of picked up on it because it was a way, I was living in Texas at the time, and it was a way for me to, as we all, get my Disney fix when I wasn't in the parks. And so the more and more I started to do Periscope, the more and more I started to post on Instagram, and it just kind of seemed that people liked what I was sharing. And here we are where I, now I'm in Orlando and I go to the parks on a weekly basis, and I'm very much getting more and more into Disney bounding. And yeah, that's pretty much a summary.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that because you also were featured in an article regarding Disney bounding. But where in Texas were you from?
Austin.
Oh my goodness! See, I thought so, but you're not there now, right? You don't, or do you still?
I am not. I am in Orlando.
You are in Orlando. You made the move. That is awesome. Yeah, I am an hour away. I am in San Antonio, so that is awesome.
I love San Antonio. I was just there. I was just in San Antonio at Christmas time.
Oh,
yes.
Okay, well, next time you come down, now we could say hello. I know. That's awesome that you were from Austin. I know also Walt's Wardrobe, who we had on the show. It's bad. I just refer everyone through their account names, but it's easier to remember that way. There's so many names, but they're in Houston, so I told them we got to meet up because we should do a Disney Texas meetup or something because everybody doesn't.
There's so many people in Texas that are Disney nerds. I don't know what you want to call them to put them into the whole Disney community, but there are so many Etsy shop owners too that specialize in park themed stuff. It seems.
Well, if you guys are listening, you need to reach out because that would be awesome. I would love to be able to talk with more people like that. That'd be so cool. So, okay, but that's not what we got you on here for. But congratulations on making that move. I know I want to make that move. We have 2 kids right now we've already dedicated to focusing on letting them stay in this school that they're in. So we're like, okay, we got a good couple years before us before we can do that move. But so pumped to do that. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and it's great because I'm kind of paving the way because I'm getting to meet all of you people now. So when I get over there, I know who to talk to. I'm not going to be a complete stranger, so that's good too.
Yeah, you gotta take care of the adulting first.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So, you know, like you were saying, you had been, you know, kind of getting known there on social media, and you know, with some of the other people there, like Donna and everything, who I found out about you through, because some of the stuff that she was putting up about you, and I hadn't known. I was barely getting into the Disney community myself, but I really didn't know kind of the story of what was happening. I just knew that she and a couple other people in the community had started putting a lot of posts about you and tagging your account, and you know, saying things like, you know, sending well wishes, or we want to, you know, bring a smile, and I didn't really understand what was happening. And then that's when I started reading more and more posts, and I understood that you actually had been fighting cancer. So, you know, this is where I wanted to
That is correct.
Yeah, and this is where I wanted to kind of get into, because, like I said, the show is usually focused a lot on, you know, and I, like I say, guys, this isn't in a bad way, but it's selfish in the sense of, we want, what can I do? How do I make life better? How do I, and not just so I can get my own, you know, joy from it, but also because I want to, you know, impact other people. But in your case, it was something much more serious, because this was something that you actually had to fight for your like physical life. This wasn't a fun thing that you were going through. But can you just kind of give your thought process, your mind, you know, where your mind went to when you found something like that out? And you know, because I know I hope, you know, not everybody who's listening hasn't in one way or another been affected through cancer, but I know, like me personally, I've had friends, or I've had, you know, family members, unfortunately, you know, some did push through, and some people unfortunately didn't push through. But it's one of those things where it's a terrible feeling, because immediately I know the idea becomes, there's no hope. You know, immediately you get that fear of, you know, oh no. Mm-hmm. So can you kind of just break through in that and explain, you know, how that affected you, and what kind of went on in your mind when you found this out?
Sure. So my grandmother actually lost a battle with breast cancer. And so I was diagnosed in 2014. And mind you, this was a month before a Disney trip. A Disney trip that I had planned for a year. And initially, you know, I knew how her situation had affected our family. And you go through various stages. The first one, obviously, being shock and denial. And initially, I still remember to this day, I remember the doctor coming into the hospital room that I was in and telling me, and I distinctly remember the first words out of my mouth being, I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to put my family through this. And so obviously the next stage is you get really angry. And a lot of people use that anger in different ways. Some people begin to question, why me? Why did this happen to me? I didn't go that route. I immediately went into what I like to call warrior mode, which was, I was like, okay, fine. If you're going to pick this battle, cancer, then we're going to have it out. And so a big thing for me at that point in time, which connects into my love for Disney and whatnot, was obviously I had to cancel the Disney trip because I had to go immediately into treatment. And so my reward that I kept in the back of my mind was, when I finish this, when I win, I'm going on the biggest, most awesome, most splurging Disney trip that I can go on, which I did. And, you know, so I've been through chemo 4 times now. The first time I went on my big Disney trip after I finished, and unfortunately, so basically my doctor had to clear me to leave the state of Texas, to come to Florida to go to Disney for 2 weeks. They did a scan before I left. And pretty much we assumed that I was going to be okay. All my, blood tests and everything were coming back looking fine. So he okayed me without actually getting the scan film. Came to Florida, was enjoying my Disney trip, and I get a call a couple days into the trip, and they're pretty much, telling me we didn't, like, it's back. Mm-hmm. And so that day was rough. But at the same time, it was one of my best days ever in the park, because I wanted to go to the park. I wanted to try and enjoy my trip. At that point, I was a stage 2 ovarian cancer. I don't like to say the word patient. I usually go with cancer survivor. But I went into the parks anyways, and I just had the most amazing cast member and character interactions. And it was like the Disney magic. It was like they knew that something was going on. And even though they didn't, they 100% had no idea. But some of the people that I met that day that were cast members, I still speak with, I am friends with at now, all this time. I guess it hasn't been very, very long. It's been, a year, but, or going on 2 years, I guess. So that just increased my love for Disney, that, you could go to the parks and you could forget about the stuff that was going on outside of it. Very much like I think Make-A-Wish tries to do for those families. And it was magical. And so I made a decision that, treatment or not, whatever I was doing, I was going to continue to come to the parks every single week, or not every week, every month. I wish it was every week, every month. And so I did for all of 2016. I came every single month. And it helped me get through the treatments with the people that I met, the escape that it provided. It just changed the game completely. And that is, I'll tell anybody who asked, that I am so grateful for Disney World and for the Disney family, because that was a portion of the reason that I'm still here today. Obviously, my friends and family have been a great support system, but having that escape has just been amazing.
That's amazing. And a couple of things that you said really stuck out to me, because, I've in my own life seen, people unfortunately, lose their life, and some people, fortunately make it. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not saying that this is the only reason or this is how it happens, but there is kind of that consistency where the mindset is, I'm not going to let this happen. I'm going to fight this. And it's interesting because I know, that your brain has so much power, it really, really does, because you can tell yourself to get up and, go to the gym if you want to go to the gym, or you could just say, I'm going to be lazy and sleep. And you'll figure, your brain will adjust what you want it to do, and it'll spit out how you want it to be. If you want it to tell you, tell your body that you're sleepy and tired instead of going to the gym, it'll do that for you. It's very powerful. So for you to kind of get yourself in that mindset of saying, we're going to do this. And yeah, we don't control, obviously, there's so much stuff that we don't control when we don't know exactly, obviously a cure for cancer in that way and stuff like that. But it's a mindset to say, I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to make sure that my body is going to fight as hard as it can. So that way we don't lose in this way. And again, it's not about, it's not to belittle anything of what you went through, but obviously we can take what you went through into a more, everyday life that a lot of us maybe aren't faced with cancer, but they're faced with tough decisions or tough things that get in their life. And that to me is why I was so excited to talk with you, because I knew you were gonna have that kind of attitude, because that's how it seems to be. Because when things get rough, when life happens, there's really just two options, which is to fight or give up. And, and giving up can look like so many different things, right? Giving up can look like it's the right thing. Giving up can look like it's the safe thing. Giving up can look like, it's the thing that's gonna help us pull through. But in most cases, we see that that's actually not the case. It really is about fighting through. And, it's talking about Disney. We look at Walt Disney, consistently on the show, talking about what he went through. I mean, I always want to humanize as much as we can the people we look up to, because it's a way of letting us know they went through things like we do. I mean, Walt lost a child. He lost his mother. He lost his father. He had, heartache. He had betrayal. He faced bankruptcy. I mean, so many different things that he went through, and we see him succeed in the way he did. And it's because he fought through it. He said, I'm not going to let this, kick me down. I'm not going to let this end me. And so, how did you, what were some of the, I guess, fears, obviously, when this was happening to you? What was kind of the fear of, okay, I know what's ahead of me? Because obviously, in case any of the listeners don't know, a battle against cancer is not easy. There's a lot of things that go through with it. There's a lot of, pains your body goes through. So what was kind of your feeling because the journey ahead is going to be very rough? What did you tell yourself? What was your mindset of, how am I going to get through this? I know you mentioned the Disney trip, which is awesome. But what was some other things that would kind of help you to motivate you to say, okay, I got to get up and do this today. I'm not quitting today.
Well, I think it's so crazy that you talk about Walt and everything, because even people who love Disney sometimes gets a bad rep for, quote unquote, the messages that they portray in movies and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But I can honestly say that, the quotes from a lot of the Disney movies are so inspirational. If you only look at the quotes that come from a lot of the movies and some of the music, I can't tell you how many of those quotes speak to cancer survivors. It's just crazy. It's almost like they were written for that purpose. And I've clung to some of those quotes throughout my entire treatment. I actually have several of them posted so that I remind myself. And I also have, one of the things that I have in my apartment is on my mirror, I use dry erase markers to kind of remind myself of certain things, because like you were saying, it's not a cakewalk. I don't want to make it sound like, oh, pity party, poor me. But there are dark days. Just like any other normal person, we have our good days and we've got our bad days. So on my mirror, I like to keep Disney quotes and then regular quotes to remind me. And one of the ones that I consistently have is, even miracles take a little time, from the fairy godmother in Cinderella. Mm-hmm. And so in addition to that, I'm totally losing my train of thought right here. So you might have to remind me if I miss anything that you wanted me to answer.
Okay.
But something that I wanted to share, that another favorite Disney memory of mine during treatment, that was, to me, it was a really big deal. And I think people who don't, I have a lot of friends who aren't big Disney fans, and they don't get it and they don't understand. But it's like, for us, you look up to not only the people who are part of the Walt Disney Company, the cast members, the animators, Walt himself. You look up to those people for the magic that they create, but you also look up to the fictional characters that are in those films for various reasons, whatever those may be. And so I have always loved Snow White. She was never, I will be honest, she was never my absolute favorite princess, but I've always loved the movie, and I loved her. And one of the memories that I draw on a lot throughout my treatment was, I went to the Norway Pavilion for breakfast one morning, and they have the princesses come around to you. And at this point in time, I think I was on my second round with chemo, and it had been rough. And I had just finished, and I was wearing a button, the celebrating button that they give out. And it said, I just finished chemo, or I kicked, cancer's butt, or something along those lines. And all the princesses came around and they said their hellos, and, not to badmouth anyone that was there on that random day. Not that they would know, but none of the other princesses really read the button. And I think that's just because they see so many of them. But Snow White came over and she took the time and read it and talked with me for a couple minutes and, made the little comment like, oh, Doc must have helped you with that, and pointed at my button, which I thought was adorable. And I've never posted these PhotoPass images for this reason. But when she leaned in to hug me, she 100%, they are not supposed to do this. And I will never say who she is because I love her to death. But she 100% broke character and switched her voice and said, I think you're so brave. And I mean, I started to tear up, and it was a combination of, number one, Snow White is telling me that she thinks I'm brave, and you somewhat fangirl, your 10-year-old self fangirl.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, you think, this person doesn't even know me. They don't know me at all. And if they believe in me, then why shouldn't I believe in myself too? If that makes sense.
It makes total sense.
And so, I mean, I could sit here all day and run through random stories about these amazing character interactions and amazing cast member interactions. But, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what I enjoy so much about what I do here, getting to hear stories like that. I mean, for all the Magic Cheers listening, I know there, and maybe you're new to the podcast, and you're listening and you're like, I don't get this. And this is why we do a show like this, because there is this is the core a Disney podcast. This is a fan who enjoys Disney. And that's why, I reference Disney and I have guests who also enjoy Disney as much, because we all kind of connect with that. But this is exactly kind of the point that I try to drive. There's times when and I'm not saying you personally felt that way. I'm just saying there's times when you kind of feel alone and you feel like there's nothing that I can do. Nobody can relate to me. Nobody understands what I'm going through. But there's also nothing wrong to look for those inspirations. Like in this case, finding the Disney songs and Disney movies and stuff like that. Because, there's been times, and I agree 100% with what you're saying. Obviously, I wasn't going through something as severe, but there's times when I'll just be listening to the movie that my kids are playing, and I'm just listening in the background, not even watching another, and I'll just hear a little quote, and I'm just like, whoa, hold on. And that's what I love about what they do. For all the flaws that they do keep that core, element, which is what Walt had, which was that encouragement, that belief that you truly can accomplish whatever you're trying to go through with hard work, and with faith, and of course a little bit of pixie dust. And so to me, that's why I love, the company. And something you mentioned earlier that really affected me, it actually is the reason why I started the podcast. And, at the time when I started, I didn't really know how to convey my feelings. It ended up a year of me kind of just confused a lot about the podcast until I finally figured it out, and I was able to structure it more with getting people like you on the show. But yeah, when we went on our first year, I was blown away by how many people that were there from Make-A-Wish, and it shook me to my core, because here I was kind of enjoying the part as somebody, and there's obviously nothing wrong with this guy, so I'm not trying to guilt you if you feel this way, but as a selfish, ooh, this ride's fun. And there would be times when I'd be like, oh, this is a long line. It's hot. I don't want to be here. And, you'd get in these little you get in these grumpy little kind of moods, you know what I mean? Where you're just like, oh, this. And when I would see so many people with Make-A-Wish, it blew me away because I said, these families, these people, you know, are choosing to spend their potentially last remaining days here. And it moved me because I realized that this place was touching people in such a way that, you know, you really can't find anywhere else. And I always joke about this. I personally, you know, I'm personally a follower of Christ. I grew up in the church, but I always joke about it with my parents in that way because I say it really is the church. I don't see people go to church the way they go to Disney. You know what I mean? I've never seen a Make-A-Wish Foundation family say, "Please, can I go to church?" And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, of course. I'm just saying that's how much joy this place can bring. And when I saw that, it just shook me to my core because I said, people need to know that there's more to life if they really just push through it, because there's so much, you know, time that we have here, and we choose to waste it on things that don't make us happy, you know, things that don't help anybody, that don't help our family or anything. And when I saw all of these people going through what they were going through and choosing to spend their last time there, I said, you know, I want to help people and motivate people to move, because we never know what it's going to be. I want to make sure that they know that if they have a dream or a goal, they got to push through with it, because it's not fair that, unfortunately for these families, you know, maybe their time was cut short, and here we are, you know, sitting, you know, playing video games for 20 hours and then complaining that our life isn't fun because we didn't do anything with it. It's like, are you like, no. And that's why I love having people like you on the show, people who tell their stories. And we're going to get into your store right now, about your Etsy store. But that's my point in the sense of, you have something, you have a goal, and you say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this happen. And we don't ever want to belittle our dream, because you never know how much it affects somebody else. I don't know. I don't know how many times. I don't know if you've ever have felt this way. I personally have felt this way at times where I'll say, well, I'll get an idea and I'll just be like, well, that's dumb. I'm not going to do that. It's like, that's not a good idea. And it's funny because then I'll find somebody else. I'll find out about somebody else who kind of did the same thing I was thinking, and they had major success and people loved it and they were changing people's lives and stuff. And I'm just like, oh, and maybe it wasn't even that deep. Maybe it was just the fact of, you know, I realized, oh my gosh, had I started doing this earlier, I could have been, you know, further into my journey rather than barely starting. And so it's important to never belittle a dream, because I could only assume how you felt. But, you know, can we go into that again as far as, did you think like, okay, I'm going to make a bucket list and I'm going to, I know you mentioned Disney, which is awesome, because that would probably be mine too. But, you know, did you have kind of this fear of saying like, I need to get as much as I can done now, just in case, or did it bring in? I'm assuming it brought in a new aspect of life, in the sense of, you said, okay, I have this chance. I'm not going to mess up. I'm going to really push my dreams, my goals. I'm going to make sure that I live my life the way I want to live it.
Yeah, no, it definitely pushed me, and it made me do a couple things. You know, initially, like I said, I was diagnosed at a stage 2. Which has a really good rate as far as at least going into remission. It has a reasonable cure rate. Now I am, because I'm actually about to go into treatment for the 5th time, I'm qualified as a stage 4. So the game has changed. It most definitely is very different at this point. So initially when it happened, to be honest, my only thought was I want to travel more. I felt like I was very optimistic that it was a phase that I was going through, that my body was going through. And, you know, I said in a year, this will be over with. And I'll, you know, have just, I was really going on the trips and whatnot to stay positive throughout the journey, to give my body the best fighting chance. Because like you were saying, the mental aspect of it is very important. The mind is a powerful thing. And I still to this day believe that at least 80% of it is positivity. That is 80% of the battle, is staying positive and telling your body what you need it to do. So, you know, in the last year, I did get a lot as I was, not having as much success with the treatments. I did get a lot more serious. I made a normal bucket list and I made a Disney bucket list. The Disney bucket list, obviously the top two things that I'm working towards right now is Club 33, dining at Club 33, and the second one being the Grand Marshal for the Festival of Fantasy, which is a hard sell. I'm sure all Disney fans know that both of those are very difficult to achieve, which is why they're the top items. On my normal bucket list, like I said, it was a lot of, I wanted to travel. There's so many places. I did spend, when I was doing my master's, I did spend a year in Europe and Asia. So I've gotten a good amount of, international fun into my life, but there are several places that I still want to see. And so there's a little bit of that. And then I would say a lot of my remaining bucket list has to do with my family and my friends and me wanting to be around to, for example, I want to see my nephew go to kindergarten. I want to see him go to junior high. I want to see him go to high school. I want to see him graduate from high school, and I want to see him go to college. So yes, I would be lying if I said that I don't have a very extensive bucket list.
Mm-hmm.
And I am slowly but surely trucking through those items, and not necessarily because I am negative about the outcome, but because I think that this type of diagnosis really puts into perspective your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, what type of things we take for granted. And so it's made me live my life a different way. And I'm sure any cancer survivor will tell you that it gave them a new view on life and how they wanted to continue theirs. I don't want to spend it doing things that don't make me happy. I want to know that every single week, maybe not every single day, because I do work a full-time job, but every single week I want to know that I have done at least one thing that has given me a sense of joy and that I have thoroughly enjoyed. And it doesn't have to be a new thing. It could be something that I've done a million times. But
Yeah, definitely. And that's exactly my point. It's about that new perspective. And I think that's something that we all should take our day-to-day life. A lot of us haven't faced something like that, and we should be grateful and try to still keep that mindset though of pursuing it, and don't slack and say, well, because you never know. You never know. Regarding anything. I'm not even talking as something as serious as, obviously an illness or something, but I just mean in general. You might, lose a job. You might, not be able to do something that you had planned to be doing just because you didn't take advantage at that point. So you don't want those regrets. Now, let's get into a little bit of your store, because you also do have an Etsy shop. So I'm always amazed with people who run this kind of stuff, because I'm so not creative. And it's so cool. It's so cool when I get to see, all of these different designs and everything like that. So for people who don't know, I guess let's get into it as far as what is it that you do for your Etsy store?
So I make Disney inspired ears, and my shop is, it's kind of a takeoff of my Instagram name, because for anyone who's listening that doesn't know, I try to explain this a lot to people, but when I sign my name, I write my E's backwards, like a 3. So on my social medias, that is how you will find me. It is not spelled EMMSKAT. It is a 3. And so for my ear shop, it is, when I was talking with my friends and asking them, well, what should I call my Etsy shop? They're like, what about amazing ears? And so I was like, I like that, instead of amazing. And obviously I put my 3 backwards because that's how I write them. And now a lot of people call it 3mmsing ears, which is fine. But yeah, pretty much the way my shop came about was I was going on Disney trips. And I think any Etsy shop that sells ears will tell you this, that this was kind of their inspiration. I got tired of the standard merchandise being really painful to wear and being limited in the options as far as design. And so I started making ears for myself primarily, and then for friends and family shortly after. Because to be honest, my first thought was I need more sparkle. I want to go to the parks and I want people to see my ears before they see me. So that was my first pair of ears, which I still have and I do still wear, is covered in rhinestones. And I just kind of, would wear them when I was periscoping. And a lot of people started to ask on social media, where did you get them? Do you sell them? And for a really long time, I told them, no, I'm not going to open an Etsy shop. That's too much work. I work a full-time job and I, dealing with all this other stuff. And then it just got to the point where I was like, you know what? Whatever, let's just do this. So I opened an Etsy shop the first day I got an order. And it kind of just, kept going from there. Every week I would get more and more orders. Sadly, my shop is currently closed right now for a combination of reasons, one being my medical stuff that I need to make a priority. And then the other one being that I'm maxed out on the orders. But I initially took a lot of custom orders. And so people just coming to me saying, I really want a pair of Rapunzel ears or Ariel ears. And, some people come with sketches and some people say, go to town, whatever you make, I'm sure I'll like, really just inspired me. So I've, continued to create. I love it. It's a great outlet. It's definitely a de-stressor. And I've always loved crafting in general. So it's been a really good fit. And it's something that I love to do.
So, because yes, I'm looking at this and I'm just imagining how hilarious it would be to see me trying to make a pair of ears. But how did you get into this in the sense of, because like you said, you made it for yourself and you were people started noticing. But when you got that first order and it got real to you, where you're like, somebody actually wants me to do this, like, was there mistakes involved? Were you nervous? Did you already have kind of a good handle on what you were going and how you're going to do it, and you just did it?
Oh, absolutely not. There was no handle.
Those are the best. That's the best answer. I love it.
When I look back now, so my shop celebrated its 1-year anniversary in April. When I look back at the ears, some of the pairs to this day, I am still incredibly proud of. Mm-hmm. And then some of the pairs of ears I have improved upon. I've taken the same design. One of like my best sellers is my silver bling ears, which are pretty much in like the 4th generation. And I've just continued to throw more stuff on them to make them more sparkly. But 100% there are several pairs of ears that I look back and the owners loved them. And I still have, I still have people who wear them in the parks now, obviously, because a lot of my orders are from out of state people. So they go to Disney once a year. They're not, locals in Florida. They go every week. Mm-hmm. So they'll take them on their Disney trips now a year later and will send me photos and tell me how much they love them and all of that. And I'm kind of like, oh, I don't like those. I wish I would have done that. Because, as a creator, you only see the flaws. Yeah. And my friends have told me several times, you're too picky. Donna being one of them. Donna has, I think, I don't want to, rat her out here, but I think Donna has about 24 pairs of ears.
That's awesome.
And she is the number one person that always tells me, you're way too hard on yourself. I've scrapped, and by scrapped, I mean, I've told her I'm remaking these. I've scrapped several pairs of ears that I've made for her, and I'll show them to her, and she will, look them over, and she could just be lying to me and being nice because she's my friend. But she always is telling me, you're crazy. I don't know what you're looking at. So yes, I think it is a continuing learning process for all Etsy shops, not just ear shops, but, everybody's going to have those cringe-worthy things that they're kind of like, gosh, I wish the owner didn't like these and didn't wear it anymore.
You send it to them and you go, please return it back to me. Please, I just feel so bad. Please.
Well, no. At the time when I've sent, here's the other thing too, is you like to, as an Etsy shop owner, you like to build yourself up a little bit. Mm-hmm. So there have been lots of times when I'm like, this is the best pair of ears I have ever made in my life. One pair that got a lot of attention was a pair of Haunted Mansion ears that I made for someone going at Halloween, and they wanted them to be Hatchet Bride themed. Mm. And so the ears on the front were bridal and had lace, and in the middle of the bow, it had, and these took me forever. We're talking like 3 weekends, really long days. The middle of the bow had a white axe that would glow in the dark. Wow. And the back had the traditional Haunted Mansion green and black pattern, and it said "Till death do us part" in rhinestones. And so at the time, I spent 3 weekends, blood, sweat, and tears, countless burn marks from my hot glue gun. And I thought, this is the peak of my career. And I was just like, these are so next level. And now looking back, I'm like, oh, I don't really like those anymore. And so I don't think that there's ever been a single pair that I've boxed up and I will 100% scrap ears if I don't think they're up to my standards. I don't think there's ever been a pair that I've boxed up and I've like crossed my fingers and been, like, please don't think these are awful.
Yeah.
But there have been ears that after the fact, I'm like, oh, I don't like the way those look, because it is very different between taking a photo of them, as I do for my site, just holding them and wearing them on your head.
Yeah.
So sometimes people will put them on and they'll take pictures and I'm like, yeah, it looked better in my hand. They should just be display ears.
Well, that's good. That's encouraging. So for all the Etsy people out there and all the people creating designs and stuff, when you feel that way, don't worry. It is normal, apparently.
Absolutely.
So I know right now you have a lot of things going on, like you said, but do you see any immediate, any plans in the future of opening up the shop again?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. I will probably, I will most likely be opening up at the beginning of June, I would say.
You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first. Awesome.
I usually, a little inside tip, if my shop is closed, it usually opens the first week of a month. So I usually don't open it if you're looking at it and it's the 10th of May and it's not open. If I'm going to reopen it, you want to watch the first week of June, the first week of July, because that's usually when that's just what I gravitate towards.
Awesome. Because I was looking at your Etsy, amazing feedback. You have over 300 sales. So I'm like, oh wow, this is really cool. So I know the people out there definitely who are interested in this would love to get their hands on ears if they haven't already. But then of course your fans, I'm sure, also like, come on, open up again. They're really excited for you, and that's awesome, and that's awesome because I mean it's great when you're able to, like you said, it's a good way to take your mind off things, obviously, when things aren't going as well, and you're able to kind of just create. And as a creator myself, I understand 100% that feeling, and it feels really good to be able to start working on something and then see it finish. And, you know, for the goods or the bads, it is something you can say I did. And so that's a wonderful feeling in that way.
Absolutely.
Now we are into the portion of the Disney Power Round.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm
awesome.
ready.
And now it's time for the Disney Power Round, where we talk favorite parks, tips, and tricks for your magical Disney trip. Let's bibbity-bobbity do this.
What is your favorite park and one thing you love about it?
It's going to have to be Magic Kingdom. I go to Magic Kingdom every week. What do I love about it? I think I love three things about Magic Kingdom. I'm gonna cheat a little bit here.
Okay.
I love, number one, I love the atmosphere. When you walk into Magic Kingdom, you know you're at Disney and you know you're home. And that feeling you cannot get anywhere else unless you're going to a Disney park. So I love that. I love, because I'm a big character meet and greet gal, I love the variety of character meet and greets that it offers. And then I'm a big fan of the ride variety too. I like the fact that it has multiple coasters, and it's got a good combination of, take it easy, people mover type rides.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Again, it always astounds me when we get someone on the show who says something so original in that way. Nobody's ever said in that feeling of home. That is so true. When you get to Disney, there's just a feeling that you can't describe. And I know a lot of people always say stuff like that, and it's like, it's not really true. No, it really is true, guys. Like when you go to Disney that first time, you're happy, but when you get to go a second time, especially, you get a feeling of I belong here. This is my house. This is my home. And of course, when you are able to stay at the resort, they welcome you in that way too. They say welcome home, and that's a nice thing to hear as well. So I love that because nobody's ever said that. So that's awesome. So awesome.
Well, and people say all the time that they cry when they go into the Magic Kingdom, or you'll see Disney vloggers who cry on their vlog. And they're like, I don't know why I'm crying. And it's like, yes, you do, because it's that feeling of you're home and you belong here. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, like we were talking, a lot of people have stresses in their life. Maybe they go to school and they don't feel like they belong, or they go to work and they don't feel like belong. And you go to Disney and you belong, no matter who you are or where you're from. You're welcomed and you belong.
Definitely true with that. I love that. It's so true. So what would be your tip then for that first time Disney goer?
Ooh, planning.
Yep.
1%. Make yourself a binder. Do not go to the park and not know what you're going to do, because people always say, first-time visitors always say, this has been awful. It's been hot. The lines have been long. We have only been on one ride. And I hear people on the monorail or on the Disney transportation all the time saying this. And I ask them, well, what did you book? And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, okay, well, you didn't book fast passes. You didn't look at what's going on in the parks. You didn't look at the hours. You didn't, book any dining. Yeah, you're going to be miserable in Florida in 100-degree weather in peak season. Absolutely.
That's inevitable. That's so true. We did that our first year. We didn't plan anything. And unfortunately, I for some reason thought my wife would love to take care of all of that. And she didn't. Here's the thing, guys. If you want to not feel magical and not feel magic, go to Disney completely unplanned, and then think everything's gonna work out for you, because you're right. There was times we were waiting in line. It was very hot. It would come to be that at the very end of the night when we're watching the fireworks show, she she just wanted to go to the resort and just sleep. She was just done with it all. And, after that, she said, I will never come back again unless somebody else plans. And so since then, we've had Catherine, who's been an amazing agent for us, and she plans everything. And we've never have looked back. Like, yes, being able to do it with things all structured out in that way. And it's not in the sense of like, you have to do this. If you don't do this, it's all over. No, it's just more in the sense of, like you said, fast passes, planning the best time to eat, where's a good place to kind of relax and rest. So it definitely made a big difference. So yes, guys, you got to plan. Don't just
you need you don't have to go, if you are not a planner, you don't have to go all out. You need a general idea though. And even, now I'm a local and I go every week. Even now, I always book fast passes or I look at the park times and look at what's going on, and I have a general idea of what I want to do. It just makes everything easier.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, guys, you should live your life that way. You should plan things. Don't don't just go and be like, how come I can't get? It's like, that's just not the way it works. And that's why, Periscope is awesome that way. And of course, you can find a ton of YouTube videos as well that show different, aspects of the park and the seasons and everything like that. So what would be your tip then for somebody who goes multiple times? I always love asking this to somebody who lives there, especially when they used to not live there, because I always think it's interesting. The answers are always a little different. So I want to hear yours. What is your tip for someone who goes to Disney multiple times?
So going to Disney multiple times, I would say to try, and I do this, I am 100% guilty of this, try to get outside of your box, so that the parks can continue to stay magical. You will hear a lot from locals that they would give anything to feel like a tourist again. And I think it's because a lot of us get into our trends. I can tell you the 3 fast passes that I consistently book when I go to Magic Kingdom every single Friday. So I would say if you're going a lot, if you're going frequently, then try new things, whether that be, if you don't like doing character meet and greets, try them, give them a shot. If you always go to one park, you know what, maybe take a break and go to a different park or try a new dining experience, just to spice things up and keep it fresh. Otherwise, you will get burnt out on Disney and it won't feel as magical anymore.
And Disney's one of those rare parks that actually does continue to provide new things. I think that's what's really cool about them. Even if it's little things, it's not necessarily like Pandora or Avatar. Or Pandora, Land of Avatar, or is it Avatar? I don't know.
Avatar, Pandora, I don't know. Everybody's saying Avatar Land, but
I know, yeah.
Like, I have fast passes. My fast passes say Pandora.
Yeah, it's not Avatar Land. Yeah, I know it's not that. That's what you say because you're lazy. You don't want to figure out the name. But no, that's true. I mean, doesn't necessarily have to be something big like that. But I know they're always doing things little different. Whether it's food or even like flower and garden and all that kind of stuff. Being that I'm in San Antonio and you can relate to this, there's not a lot here. All we have really is Fiesta Texas and SeaWorld. And unfortunately, SeaWorld is not like Orlando or San Diego. It's very, very... It's done, it seems.
It's lower. Yeah, it's low. It's low key.
There you go.
It's
sure.
Low key.
Yes. It's just a great place to exercise is what it's become. I just go to walk now. But point being that yes, there's always something fun to do. So I love that. Get out of your box and try something new.
I would also say this too. This would be for people, coming to Disney, whether they're coming frequently or once a year, is a lesson that I learned. I used to take one huge Disney trip a year. I would try to make it as long as possible because you think, I'm going to soak all of this in. And I realized that if you have 10 days to spend at the park, instead of cramming it into one trip and being stressed and just going and going and going and burning out completely energy-wise, not like Disney burnout. I 100% recommend breaking up your trips into shorter trips because I can guarantee that you will not feel as rushed because you'll know when your next trip is and that you're coming back. There won't be that sense of urgency.
That's a really good idea. Yeah. Because usually we do that. We have like a week off where we say we'll do that. So that's a great idea. If you can break that up, be able to head over there at least twice now. And yeah, that's very true. I like that. Okay. So again, I want to thank you for being on the show. I'm obviously, you could tell I love to talk, so I don't want to take too much time away anymore, but I want to thank you for being on the show. And I want to, obviously guys, encourage you to go follow her. Information will be in the show notes, but you can follow her on Instagram and, of course, Twitter account and Periscope and everything like that. And of course her store, because once it comes up, you'll be able to see all of that, stuff that she has there. But before we sign off here, I'd like for you to just, if you could, leave some encouraging words and some advice for the Magic Cheers listening. I normally say something, but you are in such your story was so different and unique that I really feel like it just should be from you and what you feel you want to share with them. So I'll leave it to you, Kat. Just go ahead and just just say what it is that you would like to say for the listeners.
Okay. Thanks so much for having me on. I loved this. And if I had a closing note, it would 100% be continue to think happy thoughts, no matter what your situation is. I know everybody says that, but know your happy thoughts and cling tight to them. Do not let them escape because they will get you through so much. So keep them in a box, lock them up, whatever you've got to do.
Love that. It's funny. That's so true. And surprisingly, I never heard that be said, but that's so true. Keeping the happy thoughts is very important. And again, I'm moved. I'm excited. I know right now we're recording it, so I'm just telling you now. But obviously on Sunday, people will be like, huh? But what I'm saying is I'm excited to share your story. I cannot wait to share this on Sunday with the listeners. So thank you again. Thank you again, msKat. I'm really, really excited. I've met so many wonderful people, thanks to the Disney community and thanks to people like Donna. And now you are one of those people. So thank you so much for coming on and spending your time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. And Texas Disney Meetup, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
We're going to make it happen.
Go make it happen. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Continue thinking happy thoughts. It really just sums it up there because, how many times have we faced something that to us, it did seem like, okay, it's over. This is too much. I can't handle this. And yet there's people who, like msKat, are going through like a amazingly difficult situation that, pray to God, none of us have to face in that way. And yet they are able to push through. They're able to continue their goal of what they're wanting to do. And that's, to me, something that we have to take into consideration because we have to understand that whatever it is we're trying to pursue, whatever goals we're trying to reach, there's going to be times when life gets in the way. There's going to be times when mistakes happen. There's going to be times when things just don't seem to work out. And it really is about that mindset of pushing through, being a fighter, of saying, I'm not going to let this stop me. And, I always talk with, I'll talk with my parents, and when they talk about, going to the gym again, they want to exercise. Doctor tells them to exercise, and they feel like they can't. They feel like they're too old. And I tell them, I've seen people at the gym and they don't have the legs. I've seen people who are older than them who are literally walking the slowest that it could possibly give on the treadmill, but they're still doing it. And it's just really no excuse. It's a mindset that we have to say, I'm not going to let this affect me. I'm going to push through this. I'm not going to, let this stop me. And because there's going to come a point in time when eventually you won't be able to say that. Eventually your body will be too old to do something, or your opportunities that were there previously will literally be gone, and it'll be maybe even impossible to get those back. And that's why you have to take advantage of the situation that you're in now. Find out what's working. Find out what you're trying to reach for and push through it. Don't let things get in the way. Don't let things, the distractions, the situation that life brings, don't let that stop you. It's never going to be easy, right? Nobody said, and if they did, they were lying. It's not an easy thing to pursue whatever goal or dream that you have, however great, big, or small it is. It's not going to be 100% a cakewalk. It's going to take time. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to be at times fearful. It's going to be at times, even maybe depressing, but you have to push through that, because if you do, you can finally reach that goal. And that is the most important thing, because once you reach it, you can accomplish it, and you can accomplish anything, and you get to your next step, get to your next goal, whatever it is. I really hope you guys got value from this. I was really moved by the story, from Emily here, and like I said, there's everybody copes with whatever that they're facing their own way. This isn't sponsored by Disney. I'm not telling you if you have something bad in your life, just head to Disney. I'm not saying that per se, but I am saying how important the mindset is. And if you can't do anything else, I hope you guys will keep that in your heart and in your mind, what Emily said here, which was continue thinking happy thoughts. Do not quit. Do not give up when things get rough. Continue thinking those happy thoughts to help you push through and reach your goal. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys will join me on the next journey that I'm starting with the Patreon. It's going to be stuff that you're only going to be able to see there. Like I said, I'm going to be posting first there, I should say, not only there, because eventually social media does get a hold of it, but I will post there first, and it'll be a way for us to chat, to do live video chat. I really wanted to do that as well. So I really hope you guys will hopefully click on the link that I will be posting with my first video very soon. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a great night, day, weekend. Whenever you're listening to this, as always, stay magical.
This was the Talk About the Magic podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to rate, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thanks for listening, and as always, stay magical.